Here's the next activity. I'm going to ask you now, so that's kind of a memory wherein you are looking. You're here, and what you're looking is there. Now, this time, I'd like you, for now, is to share a story of your earliest memory. Now, the earliest as possible. So for me, I've shared a memory of my aunt taking care of me, and then a woman coming in and asking, "Where's your aunt?" And I said, "You mean my mama auntie?" And so the woman went up, and then my aunt called me and told me that, "Oh, this is your real mom." Yeah, so that's my first memory, right? So I share that with you. Now it's time for you to share your earliest memory. You don't have to share, but yes, share your earliest memory. Right, who can start?
Me too.
Okay. You already wrote them.
Yeah. Yes. It's one of the poems.
Wow, that's really good. That's really good because
You told us to do that, Edwin.
Yes, I know, but okay, that's great. So what you wrote in the poem is your earliest memory. That's really great. Do you have the most earliest memory, the most that you can remember, the first time?
Sorry, I don't really have one.
Okay, that's fine as well because it does take some time to remember. The next question is this, and I want you to really listen and think through. What was going on in your own body, in your own brain, in your own mind before you had your first memory? What was going on? What do you think is going on?
I was too young.
You were too young, right?
Too young to remember. I was like 3 or 2.
Okay, so what was going on in these times when you said you are too young to remember? Because there are things happening already. What do you think was going on within you?
Like, what do you mean? Like saying, "Oh, I was a bit cold" or something, or like, is it more deep? Is it like I was spiritually awakened from my first memory?
So yes, because you cannot say what do you mean when I am cold because you don't have a memory of it.
Well, no, but you said describe how your body feels.
Okay, so now here we move from because we don't have a I'm asking you, we are going through a world wherein at a time when our memory capacity is not there, right?
Oh.
So we are going because all of us have gone through this. So I want you to imagine or make a hypothesis or a conjecture or an imagination of what really is going on within you before you had this first memory.
Is there anything more specific? Because there are a lot of things you could say.
Okay, so this time it's a great question. Is you can say anything. Shall I say the question again? Is what was going on within you before you had this first memory? So at the moment, I'm trying to get you to think like, oh, before I had that first memory, what was really happening on me? What was happening? Because there's things going on in our body before we have our first memory.
We're kind of just like in a vegetative state.
Okay.
I mean, you don't really remember anything.
Yes, thank you, yeah. So when you say vegetative state, you are plant-like. You have a plant. Yeah. So I'm going to lead you to this. You have a plant-like consciousness. That was your consciousness. You were like a plant in terms of consciousness.
Mhm.
Yeah? Right. So, what do you think?
I don't know. There's so many, so I can't decide. Because
Okay.
it could be biology or mind or development.
Oh, great, great. First, do it in terms of biology, and then the next is mind. So you could say, in terms of the mind, start with that. Then once you're finished, in terms of biology. Okay, let's hear that.
Like everything, the whole body is developing or self-breaking. There's just too many.
I'm quite lost.
Okay, so normally in terms of growing, in terms of biology, we are growing. So it's the same with the plants, they are growing. The same with the plants, they're growing too. Yeah. But now I want you to move on to your next point is what's going on with the mind. So when I am asking you about what's going on within you before you had your first memory, I'm making this hypothesis.
Hypothesis.
Now, this is my hypothesis. Is that the people hearing these myths, the people hearing these stories, they have that consciousness before we have our first memory. Does that make sense? The consciousness of the people who listen to these stories are the same consciousness, possibly the same consciousness that we experience before our first memory. Can you repeat that?
Do you mean the people, like who first made the myths? You know what I mean? Sort of cave people and things.
Yes. So the people is basically, so for example, the Pango story is a prehistoric myth. It could,
Okay.
and what was recorded is only the remnants. The remnants. So it's the tail end. So the people who listened, yeah, rather than the one who created.
Okay.
So the consciousness of the people who listen to these stories, these myths, is basically a type of consciousness that before our first memory ever happened.
I'm a bit confused.
Ah.
Yeah, you're very,
What does this mean exactly?
yeah.
So that means their world is different from ours. We're trying to get a glimpse of their world because we're studying their mythology and we're trying to glimpse of who they are, how they are as a people. And that's why we did that exercise of what was I like before I had my first memory. And that's what I'm saying is, if we can experience that time, that is the consciousness of the people listening to these stories, which is different from us. Is this, am I making sense?
I get it.
Okay, can you
Okay.
rephrase that?
Okay. So basically, consciousness is sort of about the way we as individuals perceive the world.
Yeah.
So we can imagine that people who lived in caves and, you know, worshipped Pangu or whatever would have a different kind of way of perceiving the world as we have. And Edwin's hypothesis is that the people who had a different consciousness back in the day is the same consciousness that we have before we get memories. Okay.
Thank you.